Hey guys, Brandon with Flyin Miata. Today we're going to talk about brake rotors, spinny things that are pretty important to your car. So, as always, if you like stuff like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, like, comment, all that fun stuff. Comments are very good for questions. If you have questions, drop them in the comments. We'll try to get to them live. If we don't get to them live, we will get to them after the fact. So, today, we're talking about brake rotors, specifically a new and exciting offering that we have, which is a two-piece rear brake rotor for the NA and B. So there's an asterisk on that. So first question, what is a two-piece brake rotor? So a brake rotor always includes a rotor ring and a hat. Now, usually that's all one piece, but with a two-piece rotor, they're separate. So you have a rotor ring, and then you have the hat, and they're separate pieces. Why are they separate? They're separate so that they can be different materials. So this is a solid cast iron that's very stout and appropriate for braking needs and high temperature and dimensional stability under heat and all that fun stuff. And this is aluminum for lightweight and better heat dissipation. So that gives you lightweight. Lightweight's always better, right? But it also gives you lightweight where it matters the most, which is unsprung weight, meaning that it's attached to the wheel, so it's following every little bit of the road, whereas your car is suspended. So your wheel is doing this, your car is theoretically staying fairly stable. So the unsprung weight, you want that to be as light as possible. And the even more important weight is to lose is when it's unsprung and rotational. So that's why lightweight wheels, like our Kogekis and Tobus, are such a big advantage, particularly for such a light car as a Miata. So these guys drop they drop almost 2 pounds, 1.7 pounds per set, so not quite a pound per corner versus a stock rotor. So what do these fit? So this is a dimensionally identical to the 11-inch sport rotor on an NB, on a 01 to 03 Sport and 02, and then 03 to 05, all of them. So what that means is that any car that's running a stock, well, to simplify, we'll say 2005 rear rotor, because a lot of online references get it wrong. So if you're not buying from Flyin Miata, be careful. But it'll fit everything that uses that rotor. So again, that's all 03 to 05 Miatas. That's all 01 to 02 Miatas, stock calipers. That's any earlier Miata that you've updated to the 11-inch sport rotors. It is also all of our rear big brake kits. So our kits that put a power light caliper on the rear rotor, sometimes with a built-in parking brake, sometimes with a separate parking brake caliper, and sometimes with a separate drift caliper. Those kits are all going to use this rotor, and it's a straight drop-in. You can see it's well made. The rotor itself is counterbored effectively back here to make sure that the bolt heads are flush for perfect fitment. So easy peasy there. Now, does it look familiar? Yes, it does. This is the front rotor from our big brake kit. Now, this is similar but not identical to any stock rotor for reasons that I won't get into here, but the short version is it works really well. This is what we use on all of our NA and NB big brake kits. So same concept, cast iron rotor, aluminum hat, and that gives you the solid rotor that you need, but the light weight, again, the low unsprung and rotational weight there. And then they come with the rotor adapters here to get them to the right size for your hubs. Very fancy, not overly complicated. Pretty simple concept. So we're excited to be able to offer these again. We had them forever ago, and they were very expensive. They are not cheap, but they're a far more reasonable price now, which is why we have reintroduced them. So I think that is everything I have. Let's go into the questions. Again, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. We'll try to get to them live. Can I get this for my NA today? Well, question number one, does your NA have one of our rear big brake kits, or is it, more specifically, is it using the 11-inch Sport NB rotor? If it is, then yes, this will be a perfect fit for you. They're actually not available right now, but they will be available late next week, maybe early the following week. We had a small inventory goof. Apologies on that one. Well, this one is off topic, but hey, it's a short video, so we'll throw it in there. How difficult is the parking brake installation? I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there, but not very complicated, and we have instructions on our website as well as videos for the installation of that if you want to dig into that. Definitely reach out to our customer support department for more questions there if you have any. Why would a street car ever need a two-piece rotor? Because two-piece rotors are better. Now, does a street car need a two-piece rotor? No, not necessarily. But it does look cool, and they do match, slots and finish and all that kind of stuff, match front to rear, which is very nice. And the unsprung weight and the rotational weight, absolutely still a thing on a street car. So it's going to improve your experience and your enjoyment and your fulfillment of the car, even if you don't care about your lap times, if that makes sense. So again, do you have to have it? No, definitely not. Is it beneficial? Yes. Is it a little bit on the edges, kind of, sort of? Yes, but it's still a pretty nice upgrade. So depends on how much money you have, basically. When will you ever offer a four-wheel big brake kit again? This one has us confused because we offer many four-wheel big brake kits. So if you can offer clarification, we would be more than happy to answer that. But to answer the literal question, when will you ever offer a four-wheel big brake kit again? The answer is right now, and also back then. Are these good for anything else besides drifting? Another slightly confusing question. These are not drift specific. Our drift rear big brake kit is because it puts a second caliper on there that's actuated by a hand brake and that kind of thing. But short version, these will work great for drifting and also track use and also driving to the grocery store. So they work well for everything. Do I need these for my FM big brake kit, or is it purely aesthetic? You don't have to have these for your FM big brake kit. You can, again, use just the 11-inch Sport NB rear rotors. That said, they are more than just aesthetic. Again, the lighter weight, again, unsprung and rotational. The other thing that I forgot to mention is that you can replace just the rotor when it wears out. You can reuse the hat. It's a good idea to replace the hardware when you're in there, but you can reuse the hat, so you don't have to buy the whole setup all over again. You can buy just the rotor ring. And we do have that stuff on our website. It'll be a while before you wear out a rotor, but we will be ready when you do. Okay, those are all the questions we had ahead of time. We have some questions in the background there. Yes?
First question, does this rotor also fit with the spacer bracket used for mounting 1.8 NA rear calipers with NB Sport rotors?
Yes. So the question is, I'm going to try to simplify the question a little bit. Will this setup work with my fill-in-the-blank brake kit that uses a stock, unmodified, unspaced 11-inch Sport NB rotor? Yes, it will. Again, dimensionally identical. So if you have 1/6 stock calipers and you've used our kit to space that stock caliper out so that you were using an 11-inch Sport NB rear rotor, yep, it'll work great. So again, anything that uses a stock 11-inch NB Sport rotor, I'm going to be saying that in my sleep tonight, I think. As long as it's not spaced out or anything goofy, it will work just fine. Yes?
Is there an effective wheel offset change between these rotors and standard rotors?
Okay, is there an effective wheel offset change between these rotors and standard rotors? So basically the question is this distance between this surface where the wheel mounts and this surface where it mates up with the hub different than stock? No. Maybe I should put my calipers on to be 100%, but I bet it's the same because, again, dimensionally equivalent. So That one I didn't measure ahead of time, so I'll put a small qualifier on it, but I am pretty confident that it is going to be extremely close, if not identical. More. Good. Yes.
Regarding the rotor ring, is it a standard part or is it FM specific?
Okay, is the rotor ring a standard part or is it FM specific? It is not FM specific. It's also not really a standard part. So this is a Wilwood part specifically for this application. Wilwood sells it. We sell it. I don't know if anybody else sells it, but it is not specifically for FM, if that answers your question. That's it? Yes.
For a track application, should one use hardware for the rotor from safety wire?
So the question is, should you use hardware that basically uses safety wire for track application? We often don't, and it has been fine. The harder you drive it, the more likely it is that you're going to have a problem there. Now that is more likely on the front rotors, just because the front rotors carry a lot more of the load and they get much hotter than the rear rotors. The front rotors, the standard hardware is not safety wire compatible, but you can replace it with hardware that is. So basically, if you're kind of in the extreme use case, if you want to be the most conservative possible, safety wire correctly used is a very good idea. On the rear rotor, I think you're going to struggle with that. So the head of the bolt is recessed in this counterbore, and it is recessed because, and it may, I can't remember if this is on all cars or if it's only on a specific application, but it's recessed because there will be interference between the bolt head and the dust shield, maybe, on the car here. If you're really curious about that, reach out to our customer support department directly, and we can dig into that a little bit deeper. The short version is the rear rotor is less likely to need it versus the front rotor, and you are more likely to have a problem, but you might still be able to use it if you get everything lined up correctly. You're gonna have to be a little more of a problem solver on that one, though. Any more questions? Okay. Okay, so yes, we have another question. Very last.
Is the hardware floating, or is it just a normal nut and bolt?
It is not floating. It's also not a normal nut and bolt, quote unquote. So the hat is threaded, and the bolt threads into the hat. Floating hardware is sexy and cool and super noisy. So for anything that sees street use, I would not use floating hardware. The other thing is simply cost. It gets quite a bit more expensive with that as well. So no, it is not floating hardware. Probably doesn't need to be for most applications, but you know, again, if you're at the tippy top, there is that argument, and get out your pocketbook because you're going to spend a lot more money. Okay, any more last minute questions? Okay, good enough. Well, thank you as always, everyone. Again, you have questions in the future, drop them in the comments, reach out to our customer support department, and we will be more than happy to get that sorted out. If you like this, give us a like, really does help out, subscribe, and all that fun stuff, and we will be back next week. Thanks.